I got my first web development job with a $60,000 salary without any experience or a degree when I was 22 years old. Long story short, I researched what companies are actually looking for, the best ways to learn those skills, and I applied the way that most people don't even know about. If you want to know more, then stick around as I will be telling the whole journey right now. The story starts in July 2018, when I was going to my second year of university. And this was something I really didn't want to do. I felt like I was stuck in life and I wasn't making any progress. Around this time, I was binging on A Day in Life of a Software Engineer videos, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. As a 22-year-old who really wanted to make some money and advance in life, I had only one thing in my mind: getting a software engineer job. I realized that the traditional way of getting a job was gonna be way too slow and too inefficient. You know, graduate high school, go to university, get a degree, get an internship, get a junior position, and then, after all that, get a well-paying job. As a person who always tries to find the smartest way around a problem, I was dying to find a better way. And this is where the story takes a small turn. Early September 2018, I came across a video from this guy called Joshua Fluke. He basically recorded his interview for a real front-end web developer position. I had never seen anything like this before, and to my surprise, I knew all the answers for the questions he was asked. And after seeing this video, it got me thinking, I should try this too. So I started doing research on the best ways to get a job. And soon, I came across this community of people who were getting jobs without any degrees or experience. They were completely self-taught. I read everything they had to say to soak up as much knowledge as possible. I learned the tricks they used to get interviews at the companies they would normally have no chance of getting in. The ways they would format their resume to make it look much more interesting, while still staying honest. And I learned how to act in an interview when you don't have any experience, which probably will be the most difficult thing you will have to face. I was completely sold on the idea, so 1 month later, in October 2018, I made myself a plan that would help me get me my first job. 1. Research what technologies are currently in demand. 2. Learn those technologies. 3. Build some projects. 4. Research what countries have the best working conditions and the best salary. 5. Make a portfolio website. 6. Write a killer resume. And at last 7. Start applying the right way. As a 22-year-old with no money, I was completely hooked. This brings us to November 2018, when I started to act on my plan. The first thing I did was go to different job posting websites like Stack Overflow or Indeed. I searched through countless of job posting to find out the most popular technologies to learn. And there were 2 that I bumped into in almost every one of them: React and Docker. I started building some micro projects using both of them, and honestly, I don't think they turned out too bad. December 2018 came around, and this is the time when most people wanna take a break and just chill out. And I kid you not, I spent the whole month programming as I really started to fall in love with web development. This extremely rigorous programming routine turned out to be the most productive thing I did that year. During Christmas, I eventually finished my most impressive project at the time. It was this extremely amateur-looking recipe site. Today, I wouldn't be impressed by it, but later on in the story, it will play a major part of me getting hired. 2019 rolled around, and I still had to finish my portfolio and resume. I spent maybe 1 or 2 hours looking at other people's work, and I ended up with this. Now, it doesn't look like something I would be proud to present nowadays, and it's still honestly a mystery to me how I managed to get a job with this. It finally came down to write my resume, and I knew if I didn't get this part right, I could say goodbye to getting any job. This time I was a little bit smarter, so I took some time to find out what are the most common mistakes most people make when writing their resumes. The hardest thing was to fill up your resume when you don't have any experience yet. It took me around 3 iterations, but I think I found the perfect formula for that. Now, don't take me wrong, all of this was very hard work, but I still hadn't applied to even a single job. And this is where I take a different approach to most people. Here's what I mean. I have seen people apply for hundreds of different jobs and only getting a handful of interviews, if any. And I feel like this is because people are fundamentally misunderstanding the job market. See, when most people are looking for a job, their thinking goes something like this. I'm a beginner, so I should only apply for beginner level jobs as I'm not qualified for any better. Huge mistake. Not only are these people limiting their potential, but they're also taking the more difficult path of finding a job. This is because the supply of entry-level developers is huge, but the demand for them is very tiny. And this is because nobody wants to hire junior engineers. For a company, it's gonna take at least a year until an employee becomes profitable. For a junior, it's even longer. So what I did is I only applied to mid and senior level positions. And let's just say it worked. And now I know what you're saying. Austin, every job posting I see online asks for at least 3 years of professional experience. And I get that, I've seen it too. What you have to realize is that these are not hard requirements. Think of them more like suggestions. The job I ended up getting required for 4 years of professional experience. I had 0. During January 2019, I applied to 13 different positions. I kept a spreadsheet of all my applications so I could keep track of how my progression was going. After the first week, we got our first rejection. And after it, 3 more rejections, but then we hit the jackpot. We got 2 interviews and one of the companies never got back to me. And the next week, we got another 4 rejections and 2 more interviews. Now, it all came down to the interviews. Now, I have to be completely honest with you for a second. As a pretty introverted guy, I was scared to be interviewed. I thought I would make some noob mistake and they would basically make fun of me and figure out I'm an imposter. Now, I did make few mistakes in my interviews, but at least it gave me a chance to show some humility and that I'm able to accept taking critique. And these are extremely important qualities in a candidate. The biggest challenge you have to face as a person with no experience is to convince the employer that you are not completely crazy and you are able to work in a team. Having no previous experience means that no company before has vetted you to be a suitable employee. And this is the biggest thing you have to convince the interviewer. And honestly, even if you're scared of being interviewed, after a few of them, it's gonna get a lot easier. You just have to get started, I promise. I was doing really well with one of the companies, and the best thing, I did some research on them and they seemed like an amazing place to work. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, they already found someone for the position they were interviewing me for. But unexpectedly, they offered to interview me for another position. And this position ended up being the one I got hired for. I completed around 4 interviews with them with varied success, and it finally came down to talk about the money. I had an interview with the CTO and he asked for my salary expectations. And here, I really screwed up. I had this great idea on how to get high salary. I would first ask for a way higher salary than I expected to get, and even if they negotiated lower, I would still be happy with what I got. A great plan, right? Well, I asked for $80,000 to $100,000. Big mistake. The interviewer went something like, we don't even pay our seniors that much. And that's quite the huge range. I just got roasted by the CTO. I thought I screwed up so bad, they would instantly reject me and move on to the next candidate. But to my surprise, they actually set up a new interview with me. In this interview, they offered me $55,000. But as stuck up as I am, I presented them with a counter offer of $65,000. After some back and forth messaging, we ended up with an even $60,000. As someone who never had a job before, this meant the world to me. Now, if at any point you felt like you learned something or just enjoyed hearing my story, I would really appreciate it if you would leave a like on this video. This was my story, but now I wanna hear yours. What is the biggest thing right now that's holding you back on getting your dream job? Let me know in the comments and I will try to answer them in the future videos. Alrighty guys, see you next time.